We're live. It says we're live. I'm going to trust it's live. Hello, everyone. Merry Moistmas to all of you. Welcome back to another Moisky live stream. Political recap. Moisky. Yeah, something. Today, joining me, as always, is my rather lovely host, co-host, Trups LP. Say hello, Trups LP.
Hello, Trups LP.
As you can see, I'm on this. I am on it. How is Trups LP?
Trups LP is so happy to be done with work for the year.
Hey, grats. How you feeling now you've got some time off just to do whatever Trups wants to do?
It's it doesn't necessarily all go in my favor because I have to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, you're going to
so
family?
I am a little bit limited once I get to my parents' house.
You're going to stay with family then? That's fantastic.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very
Um,
jealous. Well, not of the... No, I'm not jealous. I'm jealous and I'm not. You get to travel. I don't. I'm jealous of that. If it makes any sense.
that's
If I'm
fair.
honest.
I understand.
It's just one of those things. So how's work been otherwise?
Work has been basically documentation since the thing went out. So
That sounds boring.
you know, plugging away on Microsoft Word.
Oh,
And the
God.
hardest thing is that there are times, especially when I have a lull in work, where I get to, sneak in some scripts for videos and whatnot. It's been really hard to do that, as I expressed to you during your Euro Truck stream before my YouTube decided it didn't want to play it anymore.
Don't mind. Last night my internet died, and then I noticed just before then comments being deleted, removed by Google moderator, and I was like, "Oh no, the goyim have
Oh
got me! The
yes,
goyim have got me!" I got a screenshot of that. It says removed by Google moderator, and Sinatra yesterday
yeah,
he also had the same thing. I was very concerned. I was
yeah.
worried.
I heard about it, and all I saw on the YouTube one, it said message removed, and
Yeah,
then on mobile, it didn't even show it removed.
yeah,
So that was weird.
yeah. I don't get it. I'm very
But
confused.
um, but no, sometimes I'm able to get scripts in at work.
Hmm.
However, because everything has been all impeachment, minus like some like half a page articles of something else that no one is apparently caring about because they
Hmm.
don't even commit a full page of information to it. They literally commit like 3 paragraphs to being
Yeah.
like, "Hey, but did you hear about this?
Hmm.
Here's some backstory about said thing. We don't know what the fuck's going on." And
Okay.
that's an article right now.
What would you like something American then that isn't impeachment related? Or related
Please,
to anything else in your major political sphere.
please do.
Okay, so earlier on in the year, a man called Harry Dunn, age 19, died when his motorcycle was in a crash driven by Anne Sakulis. She was given diplomatic immunity in the US because of her husband. That's pretty.
Who's her husband?
I actually don't know who her husband is, actually. But he was
Oh, just a random, just a citizen.
he was a diplomat, for, ambassador, I believe, actually. I can't remember. I did a video on this. She got diplomatic immunity, and because of the incident, she fled from the UK to the US. And just before the election, this all went nuts because Trump even alluded to the fact that he wouldn't hand her over, or that her immunity wouldn't be changed. Excuse me. Um, the Crown Prosecution Service in this country, my country that is, has announced she's now being charged with death by dangerous driving, which means they have to file something. They have to file with the U.S. not the U.S. State Department. I think it's not the Home Office. It is. And it's issued by the Home Office in the UK to the US. And hang on, it now has to decide. The U.S. State Department has to look at the request and decide if it conforms to dual criminality treaties. People are in arms about this because many think she is hiding behind the diplomatic immunity because of her husband, who is a U.S. intelligence officer, which is where her protection comes from. Whereas others, and obviously many others, then say she should be brought back because it's still a crime. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't have that kind of sway when it comes to committing crimes in another country.
Well,
See,
honestly, it sounds like just a slightly lower version than if, let's say, Prince Harry came over and accidentally, got drunk and hit
mm-hmm,
somebody with a car,
yeah,
right?
mm-hmm,
That that would be bad.
mm-hmm,
And let's say he went back to the UK and America was like, "Hold the fuck on, somebody's dead here."
yep.
Well, obviously, we wouldn't be able to request him back, um, because that's a bit of diplomatic immunity to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
This one is just it's just low enough for us to see it all unfold.
Yeah. I,
So it's obviously it's much worse if you look at the higher up you go.
I should say I know, and many will point out why diplomatic immunity exists. I get why it exists because of certain treaties that were agreed upon for ambassadors and as such, and other diplomats. I get it. My view is always going to be: you commit a crime somewhere, you do the time there. It's the same thing I've held for non-diplomats who, in other countries, who have committed crimes in those countries. Like, for example, Shamima Begum. My view is always, because of her connection to ISIS, and the fact that she was a part of the jihadi police in Syria, she should face the trial and obviously punishment for what she did over there. Not be brought back here and tried for those same crimes. That's not how I view it. I never have viewed that way. So yes, there's your non impeachment thing. If you have any extra
I
you'd like to
mean,
add.
I appreciate it. I think it's um I think
Sorry.
it's good actually. I was actually tempted to do something UK related because there was this article that I read about the crown questioning whether or not they wanted to strip Meghan of all royal titles.
Oh really?
I'll see if I find that article and I'll put it in one of the things for you.
And there I was thinking it would be Andrew first.
Apparently not. Apparently the queen
uh,
likes him more.
that is one of her sons, so I'm not too surprised.
Well, I mean, and also he kind of does things. Megan's just kind of a
Well,
bitch,
he doesn't
and that's
any
coming from an American.
he doesn't anymore. Sadly, he's
Well,
he's
yes,
he's
correct.
essentially been retired, and
Forcibly.
unless well by Charles, and Charles is arguably now one of the most popular royals ever. He used to be the least popular. I actually find it quite fascinating what he could do and what Americans might want when it comes to him possibly, if they get enough evidence, him possibly being extradited anyway. Uh,
Oh, overlay clips. Rip, J.K. Rowling. That's another good one.
Hashtag I
Uh,
stand with his Maya, is it? Is that who it was? I was going to do a video on that. I was going to
I
include
don't
it in
give
my.
a fuck who it
Yeah,
was. It
yeah.
was just her, J.K. Rowling's just big mouth.
Yeah, so that concerned that the woman who lost her job because on a personal Twitter account she recognized biological sex as a difference between, obviously, that instead of gender.
That it exists.
Yes, and that got her fired from her job, and a court upheld the firing, and J.K. Rowling supported this woman, and many are calling her a turf for it. I'm going to be doing a video on that in the exhibition of stupid people on Monday, with all that. There's like 15 odd articles I need to go through there, and I'm going to go through all of them in a massive video on Monday because I can't. I was going to do it today, but I was like, no, I'm congested. I could barely be bothered. I just
I
no,
feel that.
yeah.
I've actually gotten over like I used to have like this dry cough going on for a while,
You
but
mean like I have all the time now?
yes, mine lasted for quite some time. So um, now I only occasionally get it when I'm outside. So I think it's
Ah.
allergy based.
I think mine is entirely because obviously I do a lot of talking, and that's exhausting my voice, and then it's
I
making
mean
it dry.
that's very possible.
I don't need Google Assistant, thank you. Phone, no, thank you. uh, yeah. What in the chat? If you think not ignore all the other stuff J.K. Rowling has said, all of it, because it doesn't matter on this one issue. Is J.K. Rowling right to back the person who was fired for the reasons the court has agreed with? And I'd also point out the person has said other things in the past. Yes, her Twitter is kind of easy to troll through, but they didn't fire her for that stuff. They only fired her for that specific set of tweets recognizing biological sex, and I think that's quite important to acknowledge. Whether it's
Well,
right or wrong.
it's also important to catch the nuance here, where she wasn't fired, her contract just wasn't renewed,
Ah, that's actually a good point. Ah,
which is actually much more fair when you consider. um, there's the right of the company to not renew a contract is a fair assessment when dealing with any customer or
Hmm.
client.
Was the agency working then if it was a contract, or was it?
I assume so because I mean, if you think about it,
Most contracts just roll over
artists are
otherwise.
usually owned by a brand for the extent that they want to use their trademark works.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Uh,
And Zemgoa, we'll get into that momentarily.
yes, but I want to cover something else first. So, uh, I'll get to the salt later, I promise. But first, I want to address what happened in Parliament today, if that's okay. Because the impeachment thing is there's a lot more to it than what's going on with the salt. The salt's quite easy. In Parliament today, Boris finally brought back his withdrawal agreement bill. We'll call it WAB. No, it's just Withdrawal Agreement Act bill. Sorry, and it passed. 358 in favour, with 234 against. Which I would point out is not 650, which means a considerable number of MPs abstained, cough cough SMP, and also means that some Labour MPs did in fact vote for it, which means it's now passed and will now go on to further scrutiny in the House of Commons and then House of Lords. This bans the government from extending the transition period past 2020, which has led to a number of issues being raised. The issues in the in the withdrawal agreement bill include the fact that protections for refugee children, which was referenced in debates today, are not being included, which actually is a point to, and workers' rights, which are being addressed in a separate piece of legislation. Poor Jeremy Corbyn got absolutely hammered in Parliament today for a number of things he said, and I'm just going to quickly go find the quotes because this was really stupid. So, 6 MPs rebelled against him. He did. What was it he said? Didn't he compare it? Oh yeah, he said, right. Corbyn said that the Prime Minister's deal would ultimately result in maggots in orange juice and rat hairs in paprika. And that we would have to slash our food standards in order to secure a post-trade deal with the US. I would like to point out, if you're really hungry enough, maggots are a fantastic source of nutrients. And
Are they?
rat hair in paprika. Um, I just, I didn't know they malted. Okay, I didn't know. It's just one of those really funny things, I guess. Which has obviously led him to getting absolutely berated. Because he is still scaremongering in Parliament. Okay? And that the fact he is still committing to this after he got defeated so badly last week. Come on. You lost and you're still doing it. And he's not the only one. Keir Starmer was no better. The shadow Brexit secretary and a number of MPs on his backbenches, who, while conceding defeat and not trying to push for a revocation of Article 50, were still giving hints during the debates, just hinting that they would support a second referendum. Now, after being annihilated as badly as they were, of course they can't say this as loudly as they ordinarily would. But it is quite interesting to see them still try and toot that particular horn. Oh, and because I think it's funny, I'm going to stick this on the screen for a while. Enjoy the GIF, everyone. It's arguably my favourite one, next to this one. Now I'm leaving that there. Actually, Boris one's funnier. So yeah. Oh, I had some tweets. Where are they? Give me tweets. I put it in the thing. Oh yeah. So
I will say that Jeremy Corbyn gif
yeah,
is just so painfully awkward.
it's very funny though, and he did apologize for that at least. So Corbyn tweeted out yesterday. What was it about our plans to make the super rich pay their fair share that the billionaire press barons didn't like. Excuse me. And the reason I mention this tweet, is because the obvious issue that arose. The issue is that because that the Labour Party are still sticking to the very same problem they had during the campaign, and the same thing they've done every time they've been defeated. They have blamed mainstream media for losing, and yet their mainstream media backed their Brexit policy. They backed a whole bunch of it. In fact, I'd argue most of them actually hammered both sides quite fairly. There were some that were very biased. The Guardian were very left-leaning, the Daily Mail very right-leaning, but arguably they didn't do that badly. And then say
Could be worse. You could have our news.
Yes, very true. Your polls are very interesting. I like that.
Aren't they?
We'll get to some of those soon, I'm sure. The real issue I take actually with the tweet is the two words fair share. How do we determine what a fair share is? How do you work that out? His idea of fair share, by the way, would be to increase corporation tax to what he would deem to be reasonable, but would actually be one of the highest in the world, which would be a huge mistake that many had said to him would lead to millionaires leaving the country. All said by the millionaires that said they'd leave the country if he did it. So yes, Labour are, while he's still in charge, before he goes to the backbenches where he belongs, are basically saying it's all the press's fault that we lost, not our manifesto that looks like it was questionable. Costed, but questionable. And then his party are doing similar things while they're busy fighting each other and blaming Corbyn for losing their seats, of course. That's all his fault. It's not their fault also.
It's not his fault.
It is and it isn't. It's his fault because policy, but it's also their fault because they backed it. You should never have agreed to half the policies he put forward. People argue. There was the argument that he'd spend, was it a couple trillion within the first year? No, it was a few $100 billion, but it was still a lot of money. Blame game is amazing, and
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Labour in its current form is, even recognised by the majority of older MPs that aren't Tony Blair, unelectable in its current form. If what is dubbed at this present time the extreme left continue and are in charge, the Labour Party as it currently stands is lost. It will not win the next election. It will not win any future elections. In fact, the one thing that made it legitimate back in the 40s when it became legitimate will be lost. Because those hard-working, working-class people you're supposed to represent will instead stay with the Conservatives because you no longer represent them, and they'd rather stick around for the free market capitalists to try and do some good, even if many think they won't anyway. Which is possible, we'll wait and see. They've got 5 years to prove us wrong, essentially. The silent minority... The silent minority got on with shit, and because of that, they lost. You didn't appeal to them, Labour that is, and that was a mistake. And if, when they choose their new leader, it is somebody that still holds the views of Jeremy Corbyn, even in a fragment of a way, they're not going to win in 2024. Oh, hang on. Carry on.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
Which I don't know.
I had to cough for a second. My apologies.
Oh, I was like, you said go on. I was like,
Yeah,
I
no.
wasn't saying shit. I was letting you go off.
Yeah, I had to really cough. Sorry. Hang on.
No,
I'm
you're
going to
fine.
cough again. You carry on.
Oh yeah. Let me just carry on. Can anybody explain to me what the fuck is going on in the GIF behind me? Because I can't.
Boris is doing what looks like an M.
Yeah. Do you know why?
No, I just looked for Boris. I looked for a GIF of Boris, and that was the first one that came up. Oh, the first one that wasn't him calling someone a big girl's blouse. That looks fantastic, and it works perfectly. I've got one. Obviously, the one of Corbyn still makes me laugh because it's just it's funny because everyone noticed it, but it's just I can't even tell if he actually hits a tit or not. The way his hand stops so abruptly, I can't be sure.
I think he did.
I think he did. He did. I think he apologized. I got the one of Pelosi doing that face after when she announced the impeachment thing.
Ooh, wait, was that picture or was that GIF of Boris? Was that in Piccadilly?
Uh, there might be actually. I don't know.
I'm learning. I'm learning UK
To be fair, I
locations.
didn't go to Piccadilly. I've never been to Piccadilly though. I can't be sure. I went.
The only
I went.
reason I know about it at all is thanks to Call of Duty Modern Warfare,
Oh, I'm gonna be playing
which
that over
invariably,
Christmas.
by the way, is one of the worst fucking maps ever.
I'm gonna be playing that over Christmas on my PS4.
Hell yeah, we could actually play because it's
Hey,
cross-platform.
I know. I know someone else that plays it as well. Two people on my server, Quacks and Mr. Shade.
Fuck yeah,
I'm,
let's get some streams go. We don't play GTA
yes.
anymore. Let's fucking play COD.
Oh, I'd love to screw with Disconar again though. Just the helicopter thing again. That was so funny.
Anywho's, sorry, continue. I got off on tangent
No,
because
it's
of
all good.
Boris.
Basically, Labour are unelectable in its current form. They are claiming to be anti-establishment in essence, while simultaneously wanting to clamp down on billionaire tax avoidance. But to do that, they need to work with the very businesses for optics stake, and they're busy ostracizing them. And yeah, didn't end very well for them. I think, yeah, while I do tend to think that the news didn't help Corbyn, it didn't help Boris either, you know. I did read the news as much as everyone else. And it should be noted that the press barons didn't vote for Tory, the working class did. The very working class that Labour have turned their back on. So, yeah. It would be hilarious, Joe. I'd be down for that. Especially if Mr. Shade has one of his rages. That would be hilarious.
I'm game.
So am I. I'm not an FPS person, but I'd have a go. I'd got the patience for it. Yeah, that's it pretty much. Assault from every member that was a former member of the Labour Party is on Twitter. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen because they're just blaming everyone, even the unions that Labour are basically in with, that represent the working class. Even they're distancing themselves from Corbyn, even though during the campaign they were championing Corbyn's manifesto. Didn't work out so well for him, I'm just saying.
Well, if they had a better manifesto, maybe it wouldn't suck so much.
Yeah, it's hard to write a decent manifesto with.
I hate the word manifesto because all I can think of is people with an affinity to firearms. Let's go with that, and and Nazis
My first thought with
or
manifesto.
or communists.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. I was about to finish with it's hard to write a manifesto with Venezuelan blood.
Yes, quite. Actually, it would be quite easy. There's plenty of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit dried up at the moment.
Yikes. Maybe Hong Kong can share.
Hey,
That's not good.
share and share like everyone. Okay.
Oh dear.
I'm for everyone interested in the vote that happened earlier. Going to link an article, and I'm also going to link another article that I'll have to archive first. The article that I'm going to link does have some of the comments and quotes. I don't particularly care about the site, but the quotes are accurate, so I don't care about the site. Okay. So shall we move on to the impeachment? The fact that you still how is Orange Man not gone? How is he not gone yet?
Ah, yes. Well, let me first start by breaking down what actually happened. So, Trump has been impeached.
Yeah.
I said those words.
Yeah.
Trump has been
Oh,
impeached.
hang on, I need to change the GIF.
He has. Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've got the Pelosi one on the screen. It's all good. Carry on.
He has not been removed. So, and this I explained this very clearly for the reason that people are very just don't understand what's going on. I love that. That's actually great. He is impeached by the House. He has not been removed by the Senate.
Why not?
Well, okay. Well, to be impeached, you need the majority of the House to vote for articles of impeachment.
Okay.
And then, once impeached, they will hold a trial in the Senate to remove him.
Ooh.
The words that people understand, they don't necessarily mean what they think they means. Input, Princess Bride fucking GIF here. That word that you're using, I don't think it means what you think it means.
Oh God, I'll go find it.
Okay, yes. So, that's what happened in this case. So, whenever somebody says Trump hasn't been impeached yet, MC, technically, yes, he has. He just hasn't been removed. Okay. So, let's move on. Pelosi now needs to take those articles of impeachment and send them off to the Senate. At which point, everyone and their mothers know that it's going to die there. She has not sent it. And there's a reason why she technically shouldn't do this, and technically a reason why she can do this. She shouldn't do this because technically, if she is holding out impeachment articles in order to gain some kind of political leverage,
Mm-hmm.
we could argue that there is a bit of a what's that word, a quid pro quo going on here, where she's holding on to things as kind of a political leverage in exchange for perhaps something else. Yeah, that's a possibility. The other argument is, technically everybody deserves a yes, IQ and codec. We know impeachment doesn't mean removal.
Carry on.
I was just looking at that and I was like, uh, sir,
Carry.
you could
Engage.
yeah, I don't know how to engage in it except for look it up. Um, do that. That's the best I can do for you because I've already told you and you don't believe me. So I mean, go ahead and do your thing. Um, anywho's the other reason why she should just pass on the articles of impeachment right now is because technically every U.S. citizen has the right to a fair and speedy trial. Imagine you get arrested and you are charged with, let's say, vehicular manslaughter for accidentally running somebody over. You would be arrested, and then you would be, held in court, where a court date would be set, and you would either pay your bond or not, and then you would wait in prison until your trial date. Well, in this case, they have charged President Trump with what they consider to be a crime, but they have not set a trial date. This then comes to, well, do the Bill of Rights not apply to the president? And yes, they do. Yes, they do. So that's unfortunate. Because right now they're basically kind of abusing the Constitution that they stood on and stood for allegedly during these whole things. Yeah, they're kind of just bullshitting. They're bullshitting themselves. And remember, this was a solemn occasion. No Democrats, take any kind of happiness or pride in doing this solemn vote. One of the worst things they have to do.
Huh. That's
Uh,
that's funny because I saw a lot of videos of them laughing about it.
yeah, well, that GIF of Nancy Pelosi that you showed earlier was actually her shushing the Democrats from cheering.
I got it. I got that one already, so it's all good.
It's just like, oh my god, people, you're not even pretending anymore. It's like when you watch some of these new modern plays where they also tell you that it's a play.
I would say, just for those in the chat, we both know it is a political trial. We both understand that. I as a complete, I don't pay any attention to this at the moment because seriously, I have my own stuff to deal with. I.e., British politics is far more interesting to me. But then when I see this, every time I've had to look at it, I've looked at it, and the first words out of my mouth have been party politics because that's all I see. I don't see any kind of working together for a consensus. Even when Pelosi said we won't take it to Senate until we get a fair trial, that reeked of party politics because of party line divisions. And I just
Well, I
thought,
mean, it's proven in the vote itself.
yes,
Not a single Republican voted for impeachment, and two Democrats actually voted against impeachment.
does that include the one that voted present or not?
No, it does not.
Right.
There was one Democrat who, in addition to Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, he voted for one of the articles and not the other
Okay.
because he thought there was more of a leg to stand on one of them than the other.
Okay.
Which, you know what? Okay, at least you're looking at this mildly critically. I'll take that. But now let's talk about Tulsi.
Sure. Before you do that, I just want to
Yeah.
quickly say, I don't understand how I know maybe it is because it's not. It's a political thing. I don't understand how the words quid pro quo are enough to hammer someone. I don't understand, but then I haven't paid enough. Again, I haven't paid enough attention. Do apologize to those who in the chat have. I just haven't. I watch other people talk about it, and I try and glean info from the sources they provide if I have the time to look at it. But when we've discussed this, every time, quid pro quo just is. It's not. And maybe that is because the court of law is different. But to me, that's not evidence of anything, really, and that bugs me. Go on to Tulsi though, because this is
Well, the thing is, the two articles were abuse of power,
right.
in that he used, he used the office in order to sway Ukrainian President Zelensky into investigating a political rival. That, right?
Right.
That was the abuse of power argument. Obstruction of Congress was Trump directing individuals not to answer subpoenas or not give over documents, etc. At which point he went to the courts and basically said, "Hey, can you deal with this shit? Because this is some bullshit." Um, and they filed articles of impeachment against him. So,
Tulsi.
yes, Tulsi Gabbard.
What happened to her?
She voted present on both of these articles.
Why did
Now,
she do that?
because she doesn't agree or disagree. She thinks that this is partisan, and therefore she doesn't think that either side should have a vote in this from her. Do remember that she has already said that she is not running for her congressional seat next election. She is only running for president. As such, she doesn't really care about what the constituents think at this point. She is trying to stand on principle so that the entire country can see that she is principled. Now, unfortunately, most people don't agree with her principled approach.
Yeah,
And when I say that, that's me being very, very kind about it.
Yeah, I saw Twitter. I saw Ranting Monkey go off on one about this, saying because she wasn't taking a side, and I wanted to reply to it and say, actually, I consider it an incredibly brave thing to say, considering how divisive things are right now. I don't know whether she's right or not. I really don't. I just thought the balls on her were pretty impressive to me.
IR thought she abstained. That's what voting present is. Voting present means you haven't voted for or against. You basically didn't count that vote.
I've heard of that used once before, and it was Obama that did it, but I don't know what it was he was voting on when that happened. I just remember that because it was one of those things people mentioned about whether or not he was good enough to be president. so I don't actually know what it was in context with. Is it quite
And
is it a regular thing or not?
what, voting president?
Mm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Voting president is very, very, very common.
So I guess on this issue, it's
For
controversial.
example, Ilhan Omar on the vote to levy sanctions against Turkey voted present. Or no, she voted no. Did she vote present or no? Either way, she didn't vote yes.
Okay.
Um, and amused, Van True voted no on both. Yes, I believe that's what I said. If I didn't, I apologize. I'm pretty sure I did.
I love that whenever I talk about politics here,
Hmm.
I don't get anywhere near as much stick from the audience.
Oh, I know.
I'm jealous. Okay.
That's because your politics are terribly boring.
It's because ours, at least, while ours are embarrassing, we have a procedure that kind of makes a bit more sense. When it's party
Our
politics in our country,
procedure,
at least with our party politics, at least with ours, we at least have a bit more debate going on, so I can at least laugh at that.
the argument for the problem with our country is that we have two documents essentially that govern everything else in our country,
Mm,
being the Constitution
yeah,
and our Bill of Rights. It's essentially it.
yeah.
Everything else is a byproduct.
So
The laws that came afterwards are byproducts.
yeah, there is something quite amusing I find about a lot of people in the who and it was referenced in the chat. People who were Democrats were talking about the forefathers and the Constitution, and even Pelosi in that State of the Union letter references the forefathers and the Constitution. But this all just seems really. I can't quite finish that thought. Something about it doesn't quite work with how this is unfolded. It feels very. No, there was actually a reference. Someone did say there was something unconstitutional about all of this, but I don't. Balls! I can't remember what it was. No, ignore that. Sorry, guys. Carry on.
Bill of Rights is technically a different part of the Constitution.
I know there's
How,
something.
how dare you not know that?
How I wait. You have a Bill of Rights as well.
Yes. It was written at different times. Damn it.
I'll take your word for it. I'm not too familiar with your paperwork. We gave ours to Voldemort.
Yes, I know.
And we don't know where our constitution is at the moment. We need to have a little word with his inbred mother.
The interesting thing about the forefathers thing is that the Democrats, during one of the inquiries, stood on the idea that if Jefferson and other signers of the Declaration of Independence and the other framers, as they called it, if they were to see Donald Trump today, they would have voted to impeach, which is weird because some of the forefathers didn't actually want to put impeachment in at all. Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the yes, but the Constitution involves. Do you? The Constitution involves articles too, like it's not just rights.
I feel like you're gonna have a debate in the
So,
chat about.
sorry,
civics.
I'm getting I'm getting distracted. Because I'm
No.
just like
Be distracted.
I'm like
really amusing.
I took AP Gov. Like I'm not that bad at this.
I actually really appreciate this because I don't understand your stuff. So now you're having these discussions. I really appreciate it. It's like yesterday. Somebody was saying there was a tweet of a guy. A guy put out a tweet of a map of the US and said that each of these states has a lower population than that of the district of LA. I think it was. And I retweeted. I did this on purpose, okay? Because I knew it would get a response, and I wanted the response. Says states with lower populations than Los Angeles County, and it was so many of the states, the majority, in fact. And I replied that if one city could dictate national politics, no one would bother voting from other regions. I intentionally said this because I'm very much aware it didn't mean all the states together, but it gave me some answers I really needed to better understand your policies. And there was such a divisive response to representation with senators, Congress, and of course cities dictating politics overall. I thought that was quite fascinating. But I did get to learn about how your senators are chosen, how many you get per state. Same with representatives. I found that quite informative. I like that. All I have to do is just troll this.
Indeed.
Sorry about that. I find that stuff
Um,
fascinating.
and that's actually kind of strange. That hold on, I gotta. Um, Brandon says they didn't expect the system of government to last this long. What do you mean? They literally wrote into their writings that they expected this constitution, this document, to quote unquote endure. Was the word? It's actually the word they used to describe it. What, guys? Come on.
Are you being trolled?
No, I'm not. I just think that people don't know the nuance of it. But like, okay, so I take a very interesting approach when it comes to constitutional stuff, and the only reason I do is because, well, I'm a member of the NRA, right? So as of the last 2 years, that would essentially, according to some Democrats, make me a domestic terrorist. I guess they would call me, because they think that the NRA should be classified as a domestic terrorist organization, just based on their advocacy for gun rights, because they don't see the actual differences between gun rights and legal gun owners and criminals. Um, but as I am a lifetime member of that, it's almost required that you end up paying attention to the small details of, for example, Bill of Rights being ratified after the Constitution was,
Yeah.
and why, and why was it written in the way it was, and why did they use the certain words, and what were the dissenting opinions, who wrote letters to say what. Um,
Yeah.
for example, James Madison was a naysayer to quite a bit. Um, he, uh, he wrote quite a few letters, and he was also one of the writers of the Federalist Papers, which is kind of the important part, which is more of an insight into what the framers were thinking when we investigate these things. That's actually something that some Supreme Court judges will end up citing when they're trying to understand or interpret the laws. Meow, indeed.
Yeah,
Um,
she's here. Sorry.
I, yes, I heard. Um,
Meow.
so
See.
you know, discussing constitutionality and what is actually physically written, um it's not that long. The the the, the lovely amounts of documents that are included in our fucking tax code, over 9,000 pages. In the Constitution, Declaration, and Bill of Rights, it's a dozen or so, a couple dozen maybe.
Meow.
Like, it doesn't feel a whole lot, and it's really hard to tell when you fucking read it on PDFs, and then you have to zoom in. So, because you're blind as fuck. Maybe it's because I have red tint on my glasses. Who knows?
Might be that. Might be. What I might do? I might
Um,
change that. I'm gonna change a picture. Give me a second. I know where it
join
is.
SRA, join GOA. Can I just join the fucking militia that was formed in Virginia? That sounds like fun.
Militia.
Yeah. Okay. So Virginia was talking about putting in some NRA is only chuds. I don't even know what that means, and I'm on the internet all day, so I don't even know what that means.
Oh, I heard the chud thing used by Sophane recently. Uh, referencing anti-SGWs, I believe.
Well, if Sophane said it,
Yeah, it must be true.
right? Because I have such a good opinion of him. Um, it's really weird being like a Hispanic conservative in this country,
Mm,
because I have seen so many people um actually, like, say that Hispanics in general are afraid of Trump and white people
yeah.
and conservatives. And I was like, whom? What Hispanics are you talking to? And they're always they're always fucking like a cat. Um, they're always fucking
Worth it.
God, I've completely lost my train of thought because I saw the cat and I was reading the
Yeah,
chat.
yeah. Really does screw you, doesn't it?
A well-regulated mission ain't you and a pile of guns, Chudley. I don't know what that means. Can you use words that actually mean something? Um,
Wait, who said that?
and also, well-regulated is probably the most interesting part of that statement. But we'll save the interpretation of
I,
we'll
s-
save the interpretation of the Second Amendment for another time.
I swear, you bring out like the best in people in the sense that the discuss debate is fantastic. I actually love it because it does kind of derail the conversation a little, but then it gets people poking holes, and I like that because then you get a chance to really dive into that.
Well, the interesting part about discussing impeachment is the only reason why this conversation is even brought up is because the Democrats stood on the founders and said they would cast you out, even though some of them didn't want the president to have any powers because they feared a monarchy.
Yeah,
And some people wanted the president to have all the powers because they kind of wanted them to be king like. And it was everything in between. And that's why when George Washington actually went in, he determined that we were only going to have a 4-year term because he didn't want to fucking do it.
yeah.
He didn't want to do it. And he didn't want his shit to establish all of the precedent.
4 years doesn't seem like you can get much done. I know we do it by 5 year terms. I often wonder why when you based a lot of yours on our system, why you didn't do the same.
Um,
Because four
that's a
just
good
doesn't
question,
feel.
honestly.
I mean, Congress one confuses me as well. It's what 2 years, isn't it?
Yes,
That that
House.
that seems quite short as well. In fact, really short.
So I think they were trying to figure out how they could coincide elections to because they didn't want House reps to be there for that long, or at least they wanted their seats to be contested every 2 years because the population of an area could change. You could have different opinions.
Hmm.
Like say right now, right? California is bleeding people all the way to Texas. That means that Texas may have a different opinion on their House rep, right? So they should have a faster turnover rate. 4 years is our president. Okay, so they have every 2 years with a certain kind of house. Senate, as MC writes, is every 6 years,
Yeah. Why is it
which actually
6?
coincides with every 3 presidential terms.
It's an odd one. It's an odd one. 6 years. That is.
I think they were trying to figure out where 2 and 4 met up, but longer, but not too much longer, because they didn't want necessarily 2-year terms for a president to then coincide with all of the Senate changing.
Uh, Becca in the chat says Texas is turning blue. There are 3 people I know who live in Texas, and they all say no, they're not. They are in little areas going blue-ish, but they're not going to go blue. That's what they say. And
Houston and Austin have been blue. Um,
Dallas is the one that's
most of
catching up, but
the
it's not there
and
yet.
Dallas, yeah.
It's not there. This is people who
Um,
live in, oddly enough, Dallas and Houston. So, yeah,
right, but that's mostly because they're cities and less because so like the rest of Texas is pretty much red.
yeah. But it may maybe in a
A little places down at the border are blue.
yeah,
Some places,
it
some
might
districts.
it may well turn blue one day, but not yet, not for a while.
Right. Well,
And if
you
it,
gotta remember,
oh,
Texas is absolutely fucking enormous.
okay, I don't know what that was.
Texas is the size of Germany.
I think I only follow her on Twitch, and it just pinged over here for reasons I don't understand.
I think it's the size of Germany. If not, it's fucking close.
Hmm, how odd. Carry on.
Yeah, but like the back to the impeachment thing.
Oh yes, please.
They made this a constitutional argument because impeachment is something constitutional. But here's where the biggest thing where they shot themselves in the foot, and only some people are talking about it. Pelosi said that they have been trying to do this for 2.5 years. That phone call that they, called him up on and said this is, this is wrong. That happened this year.
Okay.
That happened 5 months ago. So you're going to admit that for the last 2.5 years, you were trying to invent anything. And the worst part is that they're really only trying to impeach him because they don't like him as a person.
Do you think they don't have enough then to
Do I
actually
think they don't have what?
enough to even? Do you believe even though let's ignore the Senate part, the part that's gone through Congress? Do you think they had enough anyway to get him, or do you think?
Not exactly. And the reason for it is because if it were something that they really truly believed that, asking a government official to do something in exchange for something, we could argue that that can be even isolated down to trade if you really wanted to get into it, right? So unfortunately, the vagueness of how they wanted to go about it, when they were talking about bribery, at least in the inquiries, makes it sound like anything, including trade, could be considered. Now, in this case, they are talking about it because, and they passed this article through because it had to do with a 2020 election situation where they think that they were trying to get dirt on the Bidens from Ukraine.
Meow.
Meow. And that was going to interfere with the election in 2020, much like how Russia interfered in 2016, right? That was the argument. But since the impeachment inquiries had finished before the vote happened, they also found out that the IG report, Michael Horowitz, I believe his name is,
Mm-hmm.
actually found that the FISA documents that even spurred the investigation in the first place was improper because they basically changed the meaning of a email to say yes, this is something that you should investigate, literally from a no. They literally said no. Did you mean yes?
Oh dear.
And one of the former FBI directors, Comey, I believe, was actually called up on it on um, several news things, including Fox and I think MSNBC and CNN.
Oh really?
Now, something that I wanted to bring up before we get into the final little bits of this, let me go and find the link real quick because I wanted to see what did you just get scratched by your cat,
Just bit my nose.
Dick?
Yeah.
I want to find the aggregate polls.
I like and I should just say there was a bunch of CNN polls that I saw for states based on what people believe currently, a bunch of opinion polls, and they all showed every candidate going up against Trump losing to Trump. One drawing in one state. I think that was Biden, and that was it. Everyone else losing to Trump. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Yeah, that's really embarrassing. You should do something about that. Just saying.
Oh yeah, I agree. So let's see. He was officially impeached. What was it? 2 days ago, I think.
Yep.
Okay, so that was the 18th.
Yeah.
Well, according to the aggregate polls of the President Trump job approval, since December 14th, he has done nothing but increase in approval and go.
Sorry, you cut out. Trups.
Yes.
You cut out for a second there.
Sorry, I forgot I had to press the push to talk button.
Lol. Boom.
Anywho's, no, since the 14th, he has basically gone up in the polls, basically Going up approval, going down disapproval, and that's from the Real Clear Politics um, aggregate polling. I'm gonna send that to you real quick,
Yeah,
or
so
I'm gonna put it in
yeah,
sources.
put it in sources. I'll dump it. I'll put it in the chat. There was
Um,
also reference. I did recall seeing this of the economy's growing, economic growth, and other issues. I believe that had boosted, but I don't know if there's any truth to those. I'd have to. I have to have time to look into that, and sadly, I don't.
yeah, let's see here. The impeachment removal. Ah, this one's a really interesting one. So if you actually want to put this one up on screen, this is the um, this is the impeachment polling, and I'll wait until you get it up on screen before I talk about it because this is a very interesting looking one. Boomer moment from Trump's. I just, you know what? Fine, yeah, it's fair. Technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm just retarded. Let's see here. Having Trump removed is their only chance of winning. Not really, because then he can be reelected for another 2 terms. Haha. Press the I agree button. Okay. So you see how the that polling data, if you scroll down to the graph, at a certain point, um, yes to remove and no's crossed. And since a certain amount of time has passed, we now, by the way, I think you're muted.
I was muted. Yes, sorry.
From him. Ha!
No, no,
Sorry.
I had a cat attacking me. It's all good.
That's fair. But you can see where the nose took over, including, and the most interesting one is a CNN poll. It's very, very curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, like the disparate views, you know, sure, they were violently different for a while. But then on the 12th,
Ah, bugger.
they met.
Boomer moment there
They
myself.
split again,
Yep.
and then on the 15th, they crossed and they haven't gone back.
Okay. So what does this mean?
So what this means is, hey, nice tabs everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't have time to prep this, did I?
I'm very, very sorry. You could have just taken a screen cap of it.
I could have, but honestly, it wasn't the first thing I had in my head.
That's
So
fair.
my apologies.
Um,
I'm switching
I
back.
apologize.
It's all good. I'm switching back. I don't have
Um,
studio mode for that OBS, so I couldn't just set it up.
oh right. Yeah, OBS changed.
Yeah.
Boomers, all of us.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Um,
We're gonna have to
but
wrap.
yeah,
We're gonna have to wrap this up, by the way, because we're getting very close.
yes, I know, because Sinatra wants you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, no, this is the interesting thing. All this bullshit
I'll link that in the
and the
chat.
aggregate polls say that most people don't want him impeached or removed.
Yeah.
Bad play.
Okay. Then I guess this seems. Well, no, I can't. I can't go into that. I don't have enough time to form that thought. I think we're gonna have to stop here for now. I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there anything you'd like to shill?
Keep an eye on my channel as Christmas approaches. There's going to be something completely different than what I normally do on there.
Linked below. Go check them out and subscribe. I have nothing planned. I have a big exhibition of stupid people for Monday, and that's about it. I'm not streaming and I won't be about over the weekend because working on that, and well, no computer day tomorrow. So I'll just chill, play my guitar, and relax. Thanks for joining. This is our last one. I assume we're not streaming next Friday because you'll be a family, I believe.
Correct.
So
yeah,
this
this will be the last one for the year.
Yep. So see you all in 2020. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Say goodnight, Trups.
Good night, Drops.
Good night, Trups.